What's up, all you lovely Monday people? What's up, all you lovely Monday people? There's so much Easter in the air, you guys. There's so much Easter in the air, it's making me lose my mind. Or maybe it's just a pandemic. Oh. What are y'all doing, everybody? What's going on? It's a lovely, lovely pandemic-y Monday out here, and my camera's going weird. There, there we go. Let's get that camera back. Let's get that camera right back to where it was supposed to be. What's up, everybody? It's Monday. How's everybody doing out there in the world of the pandemic? I named it today. Did I spell pandemic correctly? I think I did. Plants or a pandemic, which is very important because that's part of what we're going to be talking about today. But I do want to give a big shout out to a couple of people that were here early and had to go because they were going back to work and they had things to do. Mr. Rumbust himself, Mr. Jim Smith, Mr. Dave's Aquariums, Mr. Reavers, Rickab Harris, otherwise known as Sarah Baker. What's up? Fisheye and Tanktics. Alien World Aquatics, everybody early, and Daniken Aquatics. Big shout out to Daniken Aquatics, which I do have interview videos, whatever you want to call them, short, minor documentary type stuff, interviews with them. The power couple from Daniken Aquatics. They are only 12, I don't know, can I math? Yeah, 12 people away from the magic 1,000 number. As you guys know, I don't normally do big shout outs for, hey, let's get a couple subscribers, but come on, man, if you're like 12 away from 1,000, you're sitting there going like, oh my god, I'm so close to 1,000. You're gonna go from 3 digits up to that magical 1,000. And hey, shout out if you guys want to check out some fish content. Those guys have some. They have 1 million fish tanks and stuff that they're filming. So definitely give them a shout, give them a check. Be like, hey, is this something I'm interested in? If it is, throw them a subscription because it's free. You can hit the subscribe button over there, and it's all good. And they're friends of this show. They're friends of the fish community. I mean, you're talking about a couple of people from Portland, Oregon, helping out here on the West Coast, keeping the hobby alive in the year 2020, where the pandemic is raging all around the world, and yeah, keeping it going. On a minor note, I wanted to mention, got the phone replaced because I broke the screen, and then within 5 minutes of owning it, see that little chip out of the screen protector? Welcome to my life. Olivia threw this light right at it 5 minutes after I activated that phone and was like, oh, I need to get an account open because it's giving me an alert. I need to blah, blah, blah. I need to do the 2-step verification. And she threw a light at it, and it dinged the screen protector. And believe it or not, I was like, oh my God, I think this phone's broken. I don't know how I'm gonna live this down, you guys. But it's just a screen protector, so thank the resurrected little baby Jeebus Thank you very much, my friend, for saving the phone and not having to get a new phone again, because this is nuts. That was nuts. I was like, oh my God, what's happening right now? Anyhow, let's check in on our YouTube membership front. After the weekend, it has... What's our new number, you guys? Are you very excited about the new number? It's 89. It went down. It went back down again, guys. We're living out here in a pandemic. I mean, we keep wanting to hit 100 YouTube members. I don't think we ever will because of the pandemic. It's just like, how could anybody think? How could anybody financially keep it together? And I get it. I understand. I'm in the same boat over here trying to keep it together. Just doing my best to try and keep it together. And thank you very much to the 89 who are all about it. I appreciate it. Let's check in with the Patreon numbers real quick. Let's see what we got here after a weekend. It's reloading. Oh, that one stays the same. So thank you very much. What is that? A total number of 249, 250, 330, I think. I don't know. Math's not my strong suit. What is that, 330 or 340? Wait, 330. Yes, duh. What's wrong with me? That's 90. Yeah, 330. What's wrong with my brains, you guys? It's Monday, man. It's Monday out here. You know what I'm saying? I've been producing a bunch of plastic parts for the aquarium co-op, so I'm going to blame it on that, breathing fumes and not having new respirator filters for my respirator, so we'll blame it on that. Then I'm just losing brain cells from that whole function. And but shout out to the 330 people supporting the show. Shout out to everybody over on Discord supporting the show and being awesome. Shout out to everybody in the chat. And Danikin Aquatics with a $20 super chat. That is buck wild. Thank you very much, my guy. I 100% appreciate it. I hope everything is going awesome down there. I so much wanted to come back down and visit. But I'm just wondering, with this pandemic, we have to socially distance. We can't visit anybody. I don't know what's going on. I currently am just hoping that I'm currently hoping that an antibody test is going to come out pretty soon. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping for a rapid antibody test to come out, and I think we're a few months away from that, so I'm not 100% sure. It looks like the curve is coming down, and that is great. The loss of life is just, anytime I look at it, I'm like, oh, this is the worst. I think I looked at the global number this morning was like 114,000 or something, and that's just miserable. But hopefully we can continue to socially distance ourselves and keep going with our projects here at home and stay safe at work and do all of the things that we need to do, and we shall just continue going on. Chevy Fish is talking to John Gonzalez about mosquito larvae. Survive all winter in suspended animation until conditions are right to continue their life cycle. They shut down and just stop moving and can survive the frozen water. And boy, howdy, I can tell you that is 100% true. And the reasons I can verify that is go visit Alaska someday, because you go up there early January and it's going to be like, I'm exaggerating here a little bit, 20 feet of snow on your head and ice. I'm exaggerating about that part, but it will literally be like 30 degrees below zero. You're like, oh man. And then you come back in the summertime and there's mosquitoes, like swarms of, I don't know, swarms of mosquitoes, I guess, but they're huge, and everybody jokes about the state bird up there being the mosquito because they are out of control. And boy, howdy, if the cold got rid of them, they wouldn't be in Alaska, but they are there, thick, rich, robustly doing their mosquito thing. And am I a fan of mosquitoes? No, but I am a fan of mosquito larvae, and I was literally checking yesterday on my mosquito larvae whether or not that they were coming in, and not yet. Not yet where I'm at. It's still probably a little premature, because it's the 13th of, what's that month? It's the 13th of the 4th month, the April, right? And so we're a little bit early in my area. I'm thinking probably about 2 more weeks, and I'll start to be getting mosquito larvae and stuff, and I'll probably make a video about it this year because I didn't make a video about it last year, and I feel like it's something that pretty much anybody that keeps any kind of freshwater aquarium can find it to be handy. And I know that I filmed some video about it last year, so I'm gonna dig through my archives and see what I got so that I can do year to year. Flickabook says, I'm sure there was a video of Corey touring your fish room. I have looked and even under the bed and can't find it. Did I dream it? No, you are correct. Yes, Corey has toured my fish room. I'm not sure whose channel that's on. I'm not sure. Flip Aquatics did a video. Lucas Bretz has done a video in my fish room. Corey has done a video in my fish room. I think Zenzo came over, but I don't know if we ever shot a video or not. But yeah, I've had numerous people over to my fish room. My fish room is small. I want everybody out there to know that my fish room is small, and one of the main reasons for that is that I try to keep it as a project that would not be daunting to anybody, right? I understand that I have sizable tanks that people are like, man, you got a 240-gallon aquarium, man, that's buck wild. I can't have a 240-gallon aquarium, man, that's too many gallons. Now, I get it. I understand. I have 120-gallon tanks, 150-gallon tanks, 240-gallon tanks. But my fish room that I actually do all my work in is not very big. It's even smaller than a typical bedroom. I believe, I want to remember off the top of my head, I might be wrong here. I'd have to go remeasure it, but I believe it's 16 feet by 9 feet. 9.5 feet, I think, is correct. It's 1/4 of our garage. So our garage, that building, I split it up. Nah, maybe it's a little bit bigger than a quarter. So maybe it's I would say overall, I think it's about 200 square feet. So it's probably like somebody's bedroom. Realistically, like if you had a spare room or something like that, you could accomplish what I'm doing. And that's my thought process behind that. I don't know if I've ever been really good about portraying that or conveying that or letting people know what the F I'm on about. But I do yammer on a lot on the internet, and I feel like, hey, if people watch this and maybe they listen to my live streams and stuff like that while they're working or whatever, maybe it pops into their head and they're like, wait a minute, I could do what that guy's doing. That's ultimately my goal. I don't know that I believe at some point in the future I'm probably going to do some more projects that I'm going to be like, look, I can't advise somebody to do this and probably make some more videos about that kind of stuff. But I really like but I realistically do try to do projects that other people could do and try to. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make it onto the YouTube channel, and the reason for that is like I feel like it might not be safe for people to kind of delve into it. But I might just throw caution to the wind at some point and just start showing you guys everything that I do. A perfect example of that would be doing electrical work. Like I typically don't show people me doing electric work. Not because I'm ashamed of it or because I'm doing it incorrectly. The real problem is that I feel like there's too many people in the world that watch a YouTube video and then all of a sudden start digging into wires in their wall. They do really shoddy electrical work, and then either the building burns down or a bunch of fish die because they wired an outlet wrong, and then they come at me and they're like, hey, well, I did it the way you said. And I'm like, I didn't do any electrical tutorials on here. Like, I just happen to be doing electrical in the background. So what you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, this might have more to do with the individual than me, right? But I might throw caution to the wind and just start showing you guys everything I do. Over this last weekend, I have been busy taking care of a bunch of the stuff around the house here. If you're on the Discord, I did post a picture of one of the things that we did this last weekend. really just hammering on getting some projects done so that y'all would be able to, so that hopefully we'd be able to show you guys some more videos of the garden stuff later on once we kind of move along here in the process of all of the stuff that we are doing. But we shall see. We shall see what happens. Let's see. Haha, YouTube is the how-to for all the hold my beer, I can fix this myself projects. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I would say that is pretty accurate of legitimately like, hey, hold my beer, check this out, and then their house burns down or something, a week later when the camera's off. But, it's just kind of a personal thing that I chose at one point to not just be like 100% hammering down and showing people all sorts of things that may or may not lead to them getting into trouble with their own projects, So hopefully that makes sense to people out there. I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Maybe people are like, dude, I want to see that. Duh. Let's see. Flickabook says it's small but intriguing. That's right. That's my whole entire life. Loads of options to go look at. Thanks. Yeah, I've had people over for touring my fish room and stuff, but Alyssa's been over. She's saying right there, trust you wedge your way into Joel's fish room and carefully turn in a circle to see everything. Yeah, there's enough space to like work in there. It's a workspace. It's one of those things. People have come over to tour my fish room and they're like, it's kind of weird. It's not a display space. It's a workspace where I film in. So it's not like there's no chair in there. There's no couch in there. There's no Barca-lounger. You know what I'm saying? There's none of that stuff. It's legitimately like I go in there to work and that's what I'm doing, So, it's like going into somebody's workshop and being like, hey man, where's the koozie and the chairs and the air conditioning? It's like, it ain't here. Texas Andy Aquatic says, I do remodeling and construction for a living, and you would be surprised how much crazy stuff I've had to fix for homeowners. Yep, me too. I have a gigantic list of places I've remodeled and stuff that I've pulled out of walls and all sorts of things. So, that's life. Avery Sean, just curious, but how to get brown algae off finer leafed plants? I've got Amublia, needle-leaved Ludwigia. I've never heard Amublia. Never heard that one. But needle-leafed Ludwigia, which is typically Arguia, but I don't know, Amublia. I'm going to look that up. Let's look that up real quick. Amublia. Did I get that right? Oh, here we go. Ambulia is another name for Limnophylla sessiflora, which is a cool plant. I would 100%. Ambulus and Ambulii were cultured epithets under which the Spartans worshipped the Greek deities Athena, Zeus, and Dioscuri. Okay, so it's another name for Limnophylla sessiflora, which I have done a bunch of times as a dwarf Ambulia. Okay, that's probably why I've never noticed that before. Okay, so it's probably just considered a dwarf of that plant. All right, so moving on. And needle-leafed Ludwigia and its highlight CO2 aquarium with easy green and fluval stratum. Super frustrating. So if you are having algae growing onto plants, it's essentially normally two things. So either your light intensity is too high for your CO2, so you probably need to bring your CO2 up in order to basically improve and increase growth. That's kind of what you're going for there. Or if you're getting too much light landing on something, you can lower your light a little bit, kind of dial back your lighting a little bit. That's definitely going to happen on finer leaf plants. But most of the finer leaf plants are growing generally pretty aggressive, right? So if you bring your CO2 up, double check as your fertilizers are utilized quite rapidly. You want to kind of make sure you fall in that balance there. But it will increase the growth of those plants and will more often than not put you in a position where you need to trim the plants back. So you're going to take the top, trim the top off, pull the root ball out, replant, keep that system going. And typically that the plants will outgrow that algae and you really won't have to worry about it all that much more. Now, the other thing with algae showing up like that I would typically look into, and I lost my train of thought. It just went right off the tracks. Hold on. What was I talking about? So bring CO2 up, bring lighting back down, or there we go. The other thing would be to kind of look in and see if you have a little too much phosphate in your system. A little bit of a kind of a pain to search for phosphates, but test for phosphates, see what's going on. It's almost always I see like a weird elevation of phosphates, and then start kind of doing some water changes / increase water flow just a little bit. Typically on aquariums that have a weird phosphate thing going on, it's generally because of some dead areas in the tank. Now, obviously, I'm kind of generalizing what's going on, but in my experience, when I have that little bit of brown crap showing up, it's like, phosphates are weirdly high, and then you kind of notice that you sort of have a circulation issue. So I would almost, what I've done in the past is add in a pulse power head, which is just, you can get like really cheap ones now off of Amazon. Let me see if I can find one off of Amazon that I've used. Oh, this is dope, by the way. I found this when I was looking around on Amazon, and it's the giant Wonder Shells. I don't know if you guys have ever seen these before, but these are super helpful if you ever want to buy Wonder Shells. Those are the giant ones, dude. And you trust me when I say you got to get a giant one at some point in time. They're laughably sized. So get a giant Wonder Shell someday if you're out there just being a baller. But let me find a power head that I'm looking for. So J-Bow power head. Let's see what we got here. Let's see if I can find it. Wave maker pump. There it is. Feels like it's like way more than I paid previously. Okay, this feels kind of expensive. I'm sorry for this. This feels kind of douchey expensive, but at about $70, this is kind of the smaller one that does it has the pulse controller and all that kind of stuff. I found these to be really helpful with aquariums that have those kind of, whoops, I'm just trying to copy the link, damn it. Copy, okay. Go back over here to the chat, and then here is the power head. Now, one of the reasons I would recommend this, and one of the reasons I found this, is because I've done a lot of reef tanks. I've done a lot of reef aquariums. I've done a lot of stuff like that. So I've dealt with a lot of reef equipment. Most freshwater people are like, man, I don't know what you should do here. What's the deal? I can't figure it out. We just have to get flow going all crazy throughout the aquarium. Now, I wouldn't do that, right? This is what I would do, is add that pump right there. It's a little power head. You can hide it somewhere in the back of the tank, or you can relocate this. It has 2 magnets on it, so you can just stick it in a spot, move it around all over the place. Very simple to operate, and it has a pulse feature on it, so you can move the water a little bit at a time. So it'll voot, 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 voot. So you don't get this crazy swirling flow constantly going on in the aquarium. And that will help kind of move around dead areas, kick things up that might be getting a little too much detritus and stuff like that accumulating in areas. And like I said, you can move it around. The ding-dang thing lasted. I have one from Jabal that I bought before I moved into this house, so over 3 years ago before we moved here. I just used it the other day to mix some water up. I was doing a stupid project that failed. It was a water chemistry project, and I mean, it worked relatively well, but it's not my expectation what I wanted it to work, so I ended up just using the water for some cement projects I was working on. Anyhow, and it works fine. It works great. So it might be something that's worth your fancy if you are somebody who's really working on plants in the pandemic like I am. It's something that you might utilize at some point in time. Texas Andy Aquatics says the Sun JCP 101 800 gallon per hour. You can get 2 for $14. I have about 8 of them running in my tanks for over a year. They are great. That's an amazing deal right there. Wow. We're going to have to go ahead and hide user on this channel. That's some garbage. It's been a long time since I had since we had a troll pop up in the chat. That is that's kind of funny. Well, now I have to sadly look at these. Oh, let me go ahead and remove. I wonder if I can remove all these. Remove. Oh. Remove. Oh. Well, either way. It's been a while since I've had somebody to get banned out of our live chat. Man, we must be hitting the like button like crazy out there and sending the algorithm over. Oh, 26 likes? Now, come on, guys. I banhammer the bad people, and we only get 26 likes on this channel? Shoot. Well, that's life. Okay. Moving on. Either way, those as Texas Andy was saying, the Sun JCP 101. I've never used that. I don't think I've ever used that pump. I generally don't have anything to do with yeah. Wherever the moderators are at, if you guys could go ahead and get at your keyboards, because clearly we have hit some kind of algorithmic thing with somebody wanting to post nonsense into the chat. So we're going to have to just keep banning them, I guess. But that's the reality of being on the internet. So it might be a troll. Who knows? It's probably a person that doesn't like me, which is fine. There's a lot of people in the old fish fam out there that don't like me, so it's a toss-up. It could be one, it could be the other. Who knows? Yeah. I know recently I had a conversation with somebody that they said, why don't you put yourself in a spot where you could, like really become a sellout? And to a fault, I'm the kind of person that really leans on my morality as a human, especially because I've come to a point in my life, having been sober for almost 6 years now. The simple reality in my mind is how you live your life is as important as the, I guess, importance of your life, right? So, fast cars, big bank accounts, fancy pants, McGee or whatever, but living a terrible lifestyle, being a terrible person, I'm not a big fan of that. I would rather have some humility and live my life the way that my morals dictate, and follow my morality and my heart and live a good life. And because fast cars and big bank accounts go away, I've lived that life. I've been there. So, I'm about to reach the middle of my life here in just 2 days. It's going to be my happy birthday, the middle of my life, and if all things go well, this will be the exact center of my life. Oh, what a drag! Oh, what a drag! Either way, But, I'm about to hit the center of my life, and it's going to be, it's going to be a thing. Uh-oh, why was he unhidden? Where's that control? I don't know. Yeah. Well, we're just gonna sit out here. We're gonna have some anti-Semitic nonsense busting up into the chat, I guess, today. So careful what you're reading, and you'll be fine. But yeah, back to kind of what I was talking about. You know, I've accrued almost 6 years of sobriety. You know, trying to live the best life that I can, and that's the most important thing to me. You know, that day-to-day life, the things that you're doing through day-to-day life is to me the most important, you know, because that's what really adds up to the accumulated event of your life, you know, and it's important to me. So I continue to do what I like to do, and we're here, and here we are. Aquaseekin says, just ignore him. He wants attention. We just ban him, you know, that's all. It's a simple click of the button like that. You know, they make a new account, they come back, and then they just click a button. You know, so it's kind of one of those things that, like, you know, like the trolls, like they want to come around and troll, but the easy thing for me, it's just to push a button. You know, it's not, you know, it's not one of those things because, as far as like the trolls go and stuff, like it's super easy to just ban them, you know, like it's super easy, you know? So it's like people, they sit there and they make account after account after account. It's a ton of labor for them, to be sitting there like grinding away, making accounts and stuff. And, you know, it's just sad. I mean, cause it's like, you just literally hit a click of a button. You know, some jackwagon had, on an old plumbing video that I had posted was like, posted this giant, like this long ranting script, right? About like how I'm a douche and I got to get rid of the music and they hate the music in this video and blah, 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 blah. And a bunch of other like insulting, swearing, calling me whatever, this and that and the other thing. Right. The reality is like somebody put a ton of work to let me know how bad, like how bad of a person I am. And I literally was just like, nah, I'm not going to do any of that. And then they typed out this giant thing about like how I got my panties in a bunch and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it's like, bye. You know, like, why would I waste my time? Like, why would I waste my time with people that are completely unreasonable? It's just it's a waste. It's a monumental waste of my time. But either way. Alana Suki says, will it help if we hit the report button or does it report the stream? It doesn't do anything. Yeah, I mean, as far as like the average people reporting stuff, like the mods know to report things. They can handle it. They have the moderating power, and we just delete it, you know. So like I said, it's a one button click. We just get rid of them. It just takes a second to highlight it and get rid of it. JC to the 49 Fish says, congrats, I've been sober for 12 years. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. That's dope, dude. Like on a Monday out here during a pandemic of just like sadness, right? Dealing with all the hard news and everything that's going on. Like it's kind of extraordinarily difficult right now to realize just like how separated we are from people. And it's been like a month now. It's been a strong month here in Western Washington. Maybe a little bit longer than a month. I don't know. It has been weird. And yeah, I want to say a month. Yeah. Cause I think the last day I actually went up to work at the co-op. Yeah. It was like 1 month ago. So, it's legitimately been a weird sitch out here. But yeah, I got to click buttons, you know? But yeah, it's been like a month, if maybe a little bit longer here with, just kind of just stuck in this kind of pandemic situation that we're in. and it's been pretty interesting. I have to admit, it's been kind of a weird testimonial to um, just being by ourselves all the time, like not really having contact with other people, having no daycare, having no, we just have like really no backup, and we just have this continued like. Vicky has the same amount of work to do. I have the same amount of work to do. And it's been weird. It's just been kind of weird, like trying to balance everything with the baby. And I mean, she's like a toddler now, so she gets around, she climbs on things. Like she'll be up on the roof in no time. You know what I'm saying? So it's been a little bit weird. But Big D Smoke says, I couldn't tell you how long it's been. I was sitting at home by myself all day long before the coronavirus. That's true, man. And I feel for you, dude. Like it's not easy. It ain't easy to just be out here isolated all the time. So hopefully once this pandemic is over, I'll be able to get back into like seeing people more often. You know what I mean? Like I think it'll be pretty. I think it'll be pretty exciting for everybody. I think everybody's gonna get a little bit weird here, like after this pandemic is slowed down. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, just watching the fish in my pajamas. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, a lot of people working from home, hanging out in their pajamas, you know. Yes, sir. It's hard for everyone, special for those of us that have kids. Yeah, it's gotten weird, man. I forget who I was talking to. I was talking to somebody because I had mentioned, man, like it's really hard with Olivia right now because she's like just turned 16 months or 17 months. Yeah, I don't know how that math works. 16 months or 17 months, one or the other. But she's literally like, she's starting to say words. She's running around. She doesn't really know. She doesn't really know yes or no or anything like that. She doesn't really know her limits or anything. So it's just literally, this is one of those times where kids are extremely difficult because it's not like I can be like, oh, just chill out over in your room for a half an hour because I'm losing my mind. Or I can't even like leave her in the living room because even though we have like all the plug covers and it's all baby proofed, it's still like, you're going to find out that something is not baby-proof that you thought you baby-proofed. You know what I mean? Texas Andy says, how can you literally be so bored you do stuff like that on someone's YouTube? It's generally people that think it's a personal affront to them if we don't get along or something. You know, it's typically what it is. That's the motivation behind it. When somebody decides like, they're like, oh, I got to troll you. I got to, send you spam emails, whatever kind of weird nonsense people want to do. It's the same reason why I have a security system. I have security cameras all over the property out here. I broadcast through multiple VPNs, all that stuff. That's why I have a gun right there. So it's all that kind of stuff. Like it's all just like personal protection because people think that it's a personal affront to them, which is unfortunate. You know what I mean? Like it's an unfortunate part of our society now that, like a perfect example would be like the average person runs into Brad Pitt, right? Like they feel like they know Brad Pitt because they've seen him so many times. They've seen him in so many things, and Brad Pitt ain't never seen that person before, and all of a sudden you're going to run up on him and you got to tell him all about whatever. I'm not equating myself to Brad Pitt, right? But I'm saying it's that same affect, is that we run up on people and they think whatever it is like a personal situation. And, I think it's partially a testimonial to throughout the late 70s and through the 80s, through the Reagan administration in the U.S., the mental health care facilities and stuff, they got closed. And I think those people that would have gotten help from a system like that, I don't think that they're getting it. You know what I mean? And I hope they do. I hope they do get it because, like I said, I've got the support of my sobriety family. So, like when I really have issues and stuff like that, I got people to talk to and work through that kind of stuff and figure out what's going on and what kind of direction I need to go. So maybe they don't personally have their own family, but there are groups out there that you could get involved with that could definitely help you out if that happens to be the case. Glass City Fish Witch says, I am busier than I was before watching and homeschooling my grandkids. Yeah. It's busier now. It's busier now during a pandemic than it was before. I swear. It is like so much. It's much more work now than it was before. It's just kind of bizarre. Like that is a really weird part of it. Ziphophorus, which I thought Ziphophorus was a member on the channel, but you don't have a green name, so I'm guessing maybe you're not. Says, no daycare has been tough, and I'm saving $900 a month. Yeah, that's true. I mean, our daycare here is $1,300. It's $1,300, and we get a discount. We get like 15% off discount because of Vicky's work, through Vicky's work. And it is wild, man. It's wild. Like when I started to think about it, I'm like, we pay $1,300 a month. That's like, let's do the math here. So 10 months, so that's 13,000. Then we add in the other 26, right? So it's 15.5. At 15.5, it's almost $16,000 a year, right? And that's a lot of money. That's a new car. I mean, that's a new used car. It's not a brand new car off the lot, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a new used, like, that would buy me let's say, like a 2011 work truck, you know? It's like a 2011 work truck for like 16 grand like that. So, and that's every year. So, buddy, I don't know what's going to happen here as the future goes on, but like continuing to pay that every month forever seems to be like basically what's going to happen, because I honestly feel like we might want to put Olivia into more of a private school setting. I don't know if we're going to. I definitely want her to be in public school at some point. But I don't know how we would be able to like stop paying that $1,300 a month and then start it back up if we wanted to have her go into some kind of more private school. So I don't know. We haven't really made up our mind on that. Obviously, we got a few years before that's going to come around, but it's kind of wild, man. Paying like $1,300 a month. It's pretty rough, but it is what it is, man. I love my daughter, and we got to keep rocking and rolling with the stuff we're doing. So we just had to do it that way. I think once she's like a little older, I'm probably gonna. I don't know. I don't want to make a statement and have to walk it back. So never mind. We'll see what happens when she's older. How about that? Alana Suki says, ouch, harsh mods, no dessert, and you have to stand in the corner. What? What happened to Jay's crazy obsessions? Please forgive me for what? Oh, no, I'm late. Oh, okay. We had all those trolls earlier, so I was wondering like what was going on. Dreaded Fishkeeper says they just canceled school for the rest of the year here for my son. Yeah, in-home distance learning is how they are handling it. Yeah, I don't know how well that's going to work out, but it might be an option for people moving forward, I don't know. Maybe there's a bunch of people out there that are like, yeah, maybe we'll just stick with this next year. I don't know. Who knows? Alyssa says $1,300 a month is more than my rent. Yeah, that's more than most people's rent, I'll tell you. Except for people in San Francisco. Joel G says, what's Fred Meyer's supermarket? Yes, it's a supermarket. I don't know what's equatable in New Zealand or Australia or anything like that, but out here in the U.S., it's one of the extensions of Kroger, the Kroger family. Kroger has this interesting thing. So they're like a conglomerate of grocery stores, but all of their Kroger locations are named something else. Like they're named something regionally for the area that they're in. And out here, they call them Fred Meyers. So they have like a hardware department, food all over there's a huge food department. They have like clothes and furniture. They have like limited furniture, so I mean it's like a big mega store or whatever thing. Reaver says my older 2 kids are doing online schooling. Oh yeah. I don't know how this whole thing is going to keep going. I mean, if it goes into next school year, it's going to be weird, dude. Yes sir, it's hard for us. Yeah, they have kids. Let's see. What else we got through the chat here? Oh, yeah, I was going to talk about plants in the pandemic. So something you guys will notice is probably coming out into the news, and this has to do with the title of the show today, Plants or a Pandemic. Now, my reasoning for that is as aquarists, in general, we have a pretty in-depth understanding of, say, the nitrogen cycle, how plants grow. We're definitely working on or thinking about things like photosynthesis. And, of course, the pollen count is like through the roof today. So sorry about my sneeze. I apologize. But that's why that towel's there, for sneezing. Anyhow, back to what I was talking about. As aquarists, we all have a pretty adept understanding about things like the nitrogen cycle, photosynthesis. We're all kind of thinking about that kind of stuff on a regular basis, which easily gives us kind of some insight into the agricultural world of growing plants, doing that kind of stuff. And I try to bridge the gap between the agricultural side of things and the... Oh, I just realized that this phone doesn't have a headphone jack. Huh. Samsung went the same way as the iPod. No headphone jack. I just realized that. Sorry. Now, anyhow, what you guys will notice in the news right now is that farmers are having to throw away a ton of food, and they're really complaining about it right now. It's real big on the news right now. If you turn on the news today, they're going to run a story about throwing away milk. They're going to run a story about throwing away corn and throwing away green bean crops and this and that and the other thing. And they're going to say, well, it's because we don't have any restaurants to give food to or sell food to. We don't have school districts to sell food to and this and that. But you will notice that the grocery stores are still full of food, right? Now, the grocery stores are full of food where we're all getting our food from. Yet these guys are all complaining about having to throw food away, which begs a bigger question that I think we all should probably be taking into our minds and possibly think about how can we affect maybe some slight changes as this pandemic continues going on. Now, one of the things that I think we should probably start advocating for is halting the monumental amount of waste of food that is being illustrated right now by the farmers throwing away all of this food. Boy, howdy, guys, we just have way too much food. We're having to throw it away because we don't have a supply chain to get the food out to anybody because we're not selling it to the schools anymore or this or that or the other thing. Now, my question ultimately has come down to, and I've not gotten an answer, if all of this food is supposed to be packaged and sent to the schools, processed, packaged, sent to these schools, why isn't this food being sent out to be distributed to the people that were supposed to be in the schools, right? Instead of just thrown back into the compost so that we could, I don't know, get something like green beans to our population that need to eat green beans. I don't know who you are. You could be a pleco fish. You could be a human being. You could be a dog. Everybody needs to eat green beans. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that there is a person that has anything to do with this live stream, this channel, this YouTube, this whatever, that doesn't need some green beans in their life. You know what I'm saying? So why are they just throwing those all into the compost, and why aren't those getting distributed out? And I think, honestly, that these are some of the questions that we should definitely start asking ourselves as Americans, as ambassadors of the world, as humans of the world, right? Because I was going to say just Americans, but obviously this isn't just an insulated to America problem. But as ambassadors of the world, as human beings on the Earth planet, we really should be asking ourselves, why is all this food just being thrown away and yet no one's eating it? But clearly, at some point in time, we needed to produce this much for something, and there was a market for it. And why aren't we getting this food out to people if this food needed to be produced, was just so important to be produced? And I think these are some of the kind of looming questions that we kind of need to start thinking about, looking pragmatically at the systems that are in place. You know, I think it's pretty apparent to most people that having your health insurance attached to a job is a little bit weird, right? Having no pension anymore and hopefully relying on a 401k. Wait a minute, what happened? So, you know, I think personally what I'm seeing is a lot of the side effects of where we've been going in the last 40 years in this country, of just cheap production, cheap stuff, cheap things, and accumulating tons of cheap stuff. What are we going to kind of do as the pandemic moves on? Now, how does this apply to plants or a pandemic as the title here? I personally, one of my big, huge goals is to start getting more aquaponics and hydroponics into people's lives. It's not going to save you a lot of money. You're probably just going to break even doing this. But I think it's something that a lot of people should be doing, is learning more about the plants, learning more about the stuff that's going on in the world. Because as we notice right now with the pandemic going on, it's like, what are we doing to grow our own food and stuff like that, and start to figure out that when these kind of issues come up, how are we as an average person able to confront what it is that's going on with an educated point of view, right? If a farmer tells you, we're just throwing away all this stuff because we have to, oh no, we have to, pandemic, blah, blah, blah. And we go, well, I don't really know anything about farming. How are we supposed to have some kind of opinion, or at least some basic knowledge that we're bringing to the table in regards to what is happening in that kind of situation? Because in my personal viewpoint, and this is my personal viewpoint, that I legitimately think this food should just be being distributed to the school districts that exist right now, right? These school districts exist right now. These kids exist right now. These families exist right now. We were producing and paying for all this food before. Why is it not being distributed now? Is it because we don't have any methodology of doing it? Because as our productivity has continued to increase, as technology has continued to increase, why isn't this stuff easier to get around, get distributed, and get out there into the people? And, you know, one of those perfect examples would be the Amazon is shipping boxes all over the place. Why isn't Amazon able to step up and distribute some of this stuff? Is it because Amazon is utilizing things like the United States Postal Service and then blaming it on the fact that it's a public entity? That's like, oh, that's why we can't get all of our stuff distributed, even though they're distributing it already. So some of the questions that I have right now as of the year 2020, what's going on in the world. But I digress. I didn't make any notes about what I was going to talk about today. But this stuff really should be getting frozen, packed, as Alyssa's saying right there. They could have this packed as it is frozen food that is selling real fast, but they don't have anywhere to store it. That's what's happening, is that they're accumulating so much food, they don't have anywhere to store it and keep it frozen. Because you need a giant freezer in order to keep a bunch of food frozen. Oh my God, we got a new member during the show. Whew. What are we going to do with ourselves? We have to change the number here, you guys. Scott's Aquatics, welcome back, my guy. Scott's Aquatics back to the club. As you can see, he's got a little badge there that got reinstated. Sometimes people's credit card numbers get changed, maybe things, whatever. We all have things happen. Sometimes you end up having to leave for a little while, which is going to put us. We're only 10 away now. We're only 10 away from getting to 100 YouTube members. I don't know if it'll ever happen. I got my fingers crossed we'll get to 100 because then we could have 3 numbers up there and it would be majestic. But you never really know. Let's see what we got going on in the chat. Michael Allen says, I don't think it's so much the schools. It's more like produce that ships out of country, but the borders are closed. The borders aren't closed for shipping agriculture goods and services going in and out. They're not closed for that. So that's weird. Why would that change? But I'll definitely look into that to kind of figure out what's going on. Lana Suki says some of that food is. Our district still has food service for the children and families in need. So that's a wonder, because I've heard that some of the school districts were doing that, but then they stopped doing it because of, as I had seen, some of the school districts stopped doing it because of the risk of exposure to the people that were delivering the food, which was school bus drivers is what I saw. A lot of them were having to do it. So, maybe we need to figure out a better way of doing that kind of stuff and get it happening. You know what I mean? So get that kind of stuff moving around. But Scott's Aquatics says, I use frozen vegetables for my smoothies. Me too. I use frozen fruit and vegetables for my smoothies all the time. Some stuff can't be frozen, i.e. fresh produce and milk. Most produce can be processed and frozen. Not really that problem. Milk can be frozen also. So, but milk could also be dehydrated, which is something that I'm finding is very odd, that they're just throwing the milk away instead of dehydrating it and being able to do something with it. Obviously milk-based products like cheese and stuff like that could be happening. It's some of the stuff is a little bit confusing to me, because some of the 2% milk, I think you guys should probably look into it a little bit. But I only buy whole milk around here because 2% milk typically has a ton of sugar in it. And if you have already pasteurized it and added all that sugar to it and stuff and taken all the fat out of it to make cheese and stuff, you have to add sugar back in so that it tastes reasonable. Now, after that, you wouldn't be able to powder it. So that's kind of some of the questions that I really want to get down to. Also highlighting during a kind of a long format live stream like this, being able to kind of think about some of the things that are going on, is a real reality of, like, are we processing the food down to the point where it's not really food anymore, and then we can't do anything with it except for feed it to children, which is kind of bizarre to me, which is a lot what happens with like 2% milk and stuff, why they're having to throw it down the drain. So let's scroll back here a little bit. Poke Nagomi says, I think it happened was management wasn't proactive enough to give away the food. Yeah, I think that's more along the lines of what we're seeing, is that, like, they're just tossing the milk. They're not even cartoning it up and sending it out and doing anything with it. They're just dumping it down the drain and then saying everything's, that boo-hoo, woe is me, there's a problem here. Which I think if they had cartoned the milk up, you could get it out somewhere. But a big giant truck of milk is always going to be a problem to try and get to, somebody's house. Oh, here's 50,000 gallons of milk. Nothing I could do with that. I don't know about you guys, but there's not really anything I could do. Oh my God, we got a new member again. Oh my God, 2 new members on a Monday. This is buck wild. During a pandemic, Janice Lundberg coming in brand new to the chat. Oh, look at that weird one. That's a 91. We're only 9 away from 100, you guys. That's something. I don't know what to tell you. That's something. It's a thing. It's something. Janice, thank you very much for some of the old Fish Fam love. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Let's see what we got here. All right. Let's see. Reaver says some food is produced under contract, so if the person/company who contracted the farmer to grow the food says we no longer need it, then the farmer has to find somewhere else to supply it to. Yeah, and I think that's kind of where our agricultural system is definitely dropped the ball as far as on that end, because I have seen some reports of that like the contracted things and then they don't have anywhere to send it to because they're like, the person that was supposed to get it isn't going to get it, so we're just going to throw it on the ground and till it back in for compost. And you're like, all right, man, we got to figure out something that's going on here. But it's obviously a glaring issue in the U.S. where these monster subsidies are going to these huge companies, these gigantic companies, and anybody that's in the small farming knows that the subsidies are generally going to the big companies. The big companies get those subsidies. They use those to buy out the small companies, and that just keeps snowballing. So that's something that I am definitely trying to put out there to the people that are into fish aquariums to make the next step into some aquaponics and hydroponics. So I'm not one of a tiny group of people that are kind of touting people learning about aquaponics and hydroponics and stuff like that, so that we could slowly increase the amount of people like this 91 here that are doing aquaponics and hydroponics in an affordable way too. Unfortunately, a farmer down the way had to burn everything. Had to burn 2 of his fields because the time money to harvest the crops was not going to be made up because the buyer is not purchasing anymore this year. Yeah, see, like, I don't understand why we have 350 million people, 340 million, 335 million people. It just depends on what estimate you see out there now. Let's go low estimate, 300 million people. Let's say we have 300 million people here and we can't figure out how to get the supply chains to be working because all of a sudden something changed a month ago, right? I think that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and it certainly doesn't make me think like, wow, America's just right on track, man. Poke Nagomi says, I just bought a Kaza outdoor Wi-Fi plug for my budget aquarium light setup, 2 hanging grow LED bulbs, got 3 more on the way. That is good stuff. I like hearing that. Something that we were slated to do it this year was build the greenhouse with the LED lighting and that kind of stuff with a small solar panel that would actually feed some deep cell batteries. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get to it this year because a lot of our projects got pandemiced out, and I got this giant concrete project on the property here that is just sitting there in the way of doing anything else, and don't really know when concrete will be able to get out here. Big D Smoke says, we always had a pretty big garden every year growing up as a kid. I'd love to have one, but I can't. Yeah, I mean, I know that Big D Smoke's name is Dennis, so if people are wondering who I'm talking about now, Dennis, he's got a bad back. Like, he can't, like, bad back to the point where he's had lots and lots of surgeries and stuff. So I know that there are people that can't physically do it. So I understand, but you know what I'm saying. You get what I'm on about. Does that make sense? Like I get it. There are some people that are handicapped to the point where they can't do it, but that's clearly not the majority of people. I think it's just people just don't want to, or they don't have time to, or whatever. They're just like under a mountain of debt and can't figure out how to get out from under it. It's going to be an ongoing deal. When we're counting on the 401k to, and the, Wall Street to come through with the Dow Jones to be skyrocketing up, so our 401ks are good, so we could retire someday, we start to run into these kinds of problems. Reaver says, don't forget all the food the U.S. ships north of the border to Canada. Yeah, it's true. That is for sure. All right. I think we're kind of caught up on people in the chat. Oh, here we go. Johnny Zelaya says, it's America. It's one big cash grab. If they aren't getting paid for it, then nobody is getting it. We no longer care about our fellow man. We only care about the green paper. Yeah, I mean, That's the unfortunate problem of the system that we have developed and nurtured and continued on. I've talked about this on numerous occasions on this show, on other shows, on YouTube for years and years and years now. I don't really care about money other than the fact that it is fuel to do more projects, and that's my goal in life, is to do more projects and stuff. And I can't figure out a different way to do it. I would love some Jeff Bezos type character or somebody to come along and be like, look, let's just do all these crazy projects and we'll just continue on doing crazy projects. But it's an unfortunate fact of life that we're at right now, that everybody's got to earn a living. And so trying to figure out how to come to a balance to those kinds of things. And, I kind of talked about it earlier. I talked about it earlier when I was talking about, just the morality of life and living the life that I want to live day to day to day, regardless of, driving Lamborghinis or whatever, or any of that kind of nonsense, because that's not really my goal. My goal is living day to day and helping where I can in the ways I can all the time. So, Michael Allen, this waste also goes back before the pandemic too, with all the tariff shenanigans. Yep. That's one of the big things that I don't think a lot of people are necessarily paying attention to in the U.S. right now, especially. They slapped all these tariffs on a bunch of stuff because the United States buys a bunch of cheap stuff from overseas. It's produced overseas cheaply. There's no real regulation on it. So they decided, the powers that be, right, they decided, we're going to put tariffs on stuff, lying essentially to most of America and saying that, well, the people that make the stuff overseas pay for those tariffs. No, the tariffs are paid here by the people that purchase the products here. Tariffs are paid in country. They stay in country here. Now, the reason for tariffs is to try and affect the amount of products that people are buying from overseas. Unfortunately, everything is so cheap that everybody still just pretty much buys all the same crap. They just jack the prices up over here a little bit. So even if you raise, let's say you buy a product for 50 cents, it gets a 25% tariff on it, which means we have to do a microscopic amount of math. So now it goes from 50 cents to 62.5 cents, right? In the cost. But you're buying something that's 62.5 cents, you're selling it for $2.99. No one's ever affected by that. They just keep buying the $2.99 crap from you. So what ends up happening is they collect all of this tariff money, which collapsed our farming industry, essentially, because the countries overseas, like China, stopped buying our agricultural goods, because that's one of the main things that is purchased from there, or from here, shipped over there, right? And they buy it and they consume it. And you're like, okay, well, I'd have to look up and see the exact numbers, but the last numbers that I saw was it collapsed $28 billion worth of agriculture here. So $28 billion was not made, right? There was $29 billion worth of tariffs collected. So it basically paid the farmers to farm the stuff and then throw it away because nobody could buy it, right? And it's just like, that doesn't work. This whole system doesn't work, isn't going to work, and that's nonsense. Sam Malone for $5 super chat says, let's add a new sticker to the stream. So, caution, water is not wet, but water is wet and fire is hot. But fire is hot. I'll see if I can find a water is wet or not wet sticker. We shall see. It was happenstance that I found this sticker, you guys. I was at a welding shop buying, I don't know, I think wire for my MIG welder or something. I don't know. I was buying something at a welding shop, and somebody locally was making this sticker and a bunch of other stickers, and it really It made me laugh, and I was like, I will give $5 to a local person for that sticker. That's dope. It makes me laugh. Adrian Rodriguez says, I always told my wife that all the tariffs that are supposed to be paid by another country usually just gets added to the price we pay. So in the end, we are the ones paying the tariffs. Yes, and the goods that are brought in here, it's paid here. All of the tariffs are paid here, you guys. If anybody out there has some kind of mystical idea that tariffs are paid by like the companies in China or whatever, they're not. They're paid here. When you bring in a good, you pay a tax tariff to the U.S. So if you're a U.S. person, let's say I'm the U.S. person and I buy a bunch of these paintings. I don't know why I would, but let's say I did. And they were $10 a piece and I bought 1,000 of them. Right? Or let's say they're $1 a piece, just to keep the math in my head simple, because I don't want to start adding zeros all around. But I bought 1,000 of them, and they're $1 a piece. I bought them from China. They came here on a boat. Before they release them to me, I have to pay the tariff to the U.S. government at the port. So the port of entry for that product, I pay the U.S. representatives. There's none of that money ever goes overseas. Nothing comes back over here from overseas. No one else is involved in that transaction. It's literally the owner here. When it lands here, you don't get your goods until the tariff is paid. Then they'll release it once you have paid all of your dock fees, your shipping fees, and your tariff. So yeah, no one else is involved in the tariffs. You literally, the person here buying it pays it to the U.S. government. The U.S. government takes that money, and then they hold on to it. It's a tax. It's a tax here. Michael Allen says, speaking of welding, I almost got an argon tank when I went to exchange my CO2 tank. Oh, my God. I could imagine that happening, but I don't go there with I don't go get the 50 pounders anymore. I only get 20 pounders when I'm exchanging my CO2 tanks. So, and I don't know. I guess I could probably get a 20 pounder of argon, but that would do some weird stuff to your water for sure. If you were like, yeah, let me just hook my CO2 up here, and you're just blasting argon into the tank. That would be, I don't know what it would do though. I should look that up and see what would happen putting argon into a fish tank. I don't think it would be good. I can't imagine it would be good. I don't know. Like, I guess I could look it up during the show here, but it'd probably just be you guys watching me read stuff for a half an hour, and that's no fun. Danica Aquatics, a lot of the farmers found out that their land is worth more temporarily. It's temporarily worth more to subsidized companies to back end the interest on the loan to themselves to buy the land. Does that make sense? People are always confused by this, but when you're the financing agent for the loan to yourself, you can structure that loan however you like. Now, as an average person out there, maybe you've bought a house, right? Now, a mortgage loan is very common in the United States, and how this works, let's keep our numbers round, right? Let's say you buy a house for $100,000. You put a down payment down of $20,000. You got to get a mortgage loan from the bank for $80,000. Now, there's a bunch of closing costs and everything. Let's not get all lumped up into that madness, but let's stay with our round number here of $100,000. So let's say you take out a mortgage for $100,000. What the bank does is says, well, we're going to charge you X amount of interest. Let's say 5% interest. Obviously, that's not what people are paying right now. That's not what this is about. You're going to pay 5% interest annually off of that loan for the whole entire 30-year period. Well, they want you to pay the interest at the beginning of the loan. So if you actually go look at what you're paying a majority of an interest payment each month, and you're paying off a portion of what's called the principal. We're used to that kind of loan because the companies that are loaning out the money need to get that interest payment from you because they want to get the interest payment from you before you're paying off the loan. You see what I'm saying? That's part of the business plan, and they're allowed to do that as long as they're following a structure that is outlined by government regulatory bodies, right? Now, if you happen to be somebody like, let's say you're going to buy an apartment building and you're a big company and you've got $400 million in the bank, instead of taking out a loan from a bank, you can become your own bank and finance yourself a loan, right? Now, what they end up doing is that you could go in and buy a piece of property on speculation, say for $100,000, but you think it's only worth $50,000 right now, but you're going to have to pay $100,000 to buy it. So what you would do is you would loan yourself $100,000, but instead of paying the interest at the beginning, you flip it around and pay the interest. You hypothetically pay the interest at the end of the loan, right? So what you end up doing is still loaning yourself money like a bank would, but you're gonna structure the loan so it's backwards. So at the beginning of what you're doing with that property, you only need to pay on the assumption that this is like a $50,000 property, but you think it's going to be worth more later down the line. You see how that works? Because by the time the year ends as a business, you write off the loss of the property, right? So let's say the property never goes up in price. The whole time with the depreciation of that property being worth less than you thought, you're going to get a tax credit by the end of the year, right? So what you can actually do is by the end of that structured backwards loan, what you end up doing is, yeah, as Joel G says, it's amortization. Amortization is the name of it. But what ends up happening is you will make that $100,000 off of just owning that property because of the tax credits on the air quote loss that your company has going, but you've still consistently been making the payments on that property, right? So you see how weird the math stuff is that is going on in the U.S. just on the basis of stuff like that, where it's like real simple, where you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's what they're doing. Now, a lot of companies that buy apartment complexes, that's what they do. So they'll buy an apartment building, but they're paying the interest at the back of the loan that they've given to themselves to buy an apartment building. Now, all of a sudden, they raise the apartment's rent, right? So all of a sudden, every apartment is $500 more a month to rent there. Now, they're vacant, but every single apartment that loses money each month, with air quotes, on their unoccupied apartment, it's a tax credit for the company to continue making payments on that loan. But like I said, the interest is way down at the other end. Now suddenly the valuation of this property starts going up because all of the newspapers say apartment for rent, this is how much the rent is, right? Now the valuation of that property goes up because all the other landlords in the area get a report that says, oh, all the apartments are renting for more around here. I need to raise my rates. And then all of a sudden, after like a 2-year period, wait a minute, these buildings are worth twice the amount they were like just 2 years ago. The valuation has just gone skyrocketing as these apartments are really expensive now, you know. So it's a real hinky business that's going on in the U.S., and I think it's problematic at best. Texas Andy Aquatics says, Corey even said in a live stream he had to basically eat the cost of rising tariffs, and that's why he had to raise how much you have to buy before free shipping or something like that. Yeah, it really is. Aquarium co-op's an interesting business. Obviously, talked to Corey about that kind of stuff, but yeah, the tariffs went up, prices went up, shipping went up, the cost of shipping went up, and things are changing and stuff. Like the post office is getting pressured right now by even our administration that, they're not profitable, even though they're not. The post office isn't allowed to be profitable. I don't know if you guys know that. Like, so it's a constitutional amendment that the post office can't be profitable. All that money goes back into the employees, the people that work there, the pensions, the health care, all that kind of stuff. It's all laid out that there's no money coming back. It's a service. No one ever says that the fire department doesn't make any money, right? Like, why isn't the fire department making money? Like, what? What are you talking about? It's not supposed to make money. Well, on a bigger note, the military only has twice the amount of people that the post office does. The post office loses between $5 and $9 billion a year. It costs us to keep the post office going. It costs just the base charge for the military is $780 billion a year. So I guess if the post office is short $5 billion, then just take $5 billion from the $780 billion from the military. How about that? And then they'd have $775 billion to spend, even though they're allowed to run over their budget by pretty much double that every single year, which is interesting. Very, very interesting. But yeah, as Big D Smoke says, they just want to privatize it and sell it off. Of course they do. They want to sell it to UPS and FedEx. Of course they do. Of course they do. When I say they, I mean the douches. That's what I mean. Anyhow. All right, we're running up on 4:24 in the afternoon. Feels like we've had a Monday show. I'm running out of my train of thoughts, just kind of winding down, kind of getting to that point where I'm like, well, we lost a member during the show. Sorry, guys. We had a member. We lost a member. We're back down to 90. I'm sorry. I refreshed the page over here. It's back down, so I don't know what to tell you. Let's check in with the Patreon real quick. It stayed the same. Okay. So Patreon stayed the same. We had a good time today. Willis Tank, so I'm trying to set up my CO2 all day, and no matter what I do, the CO2 comes out where I connect the tubing to the diffuser. So you want to make sure that you make a really nice flat cut on that tubing. Then you actually want to get some little, oh, hold on. What do we want to get here? I have them. They're in here somewhere. Let me find my orders. We want, what do we want? What are they called? Hose, clamp, plas. Oh, let's see my orders, if we can come up with it. Yep, here they are right here. Wow, I don't think I would have ever gotten this correctly. The heavy-duty, speedy, double snap grip plastic nylon ratcheting hose clamps assortment kit. Ugh, that is just word bingo right there. You know what I'm talking about. So let me get a link for it. These little ratcheting nylon hose clamps will probably save the day for what you're looking to do. So hopefully that helps with getting your CO2 on there. Just be careful with this, those glass CO2 diffusers at all points in time. Be careful with those. It's really easy to snap the neck and stab yourself right in the finger, which I have done probably 3 times in my life. And I'll be honest with you guys, 3 is 3 too many. You know what I'm saying? So 3 is 3 too many, and don't do that. So be careful with those glass ones. Just get it on there. Get some of those little clamps. Those little clamps are totally helpful for EHIM tubes, any kind of vinyl tubes, CO2 tubes, any of that kind of stuff. You're going to definitely need those clamps, you know what I'm saying? Get a little clamp. Don't be clamping in your body parts, if you know what I'm saying. Don't be doing that either. The dreaded Fish Keeper 207 said, being stuck inside got me looking. I decided to splurge a little and order a bunch of pinto shrimps. Oh, my God. Thank you. That's awesome. 22 of the black and 22 of the reds. Oh, my God. I love my pinto shrimp. They are my fave. They're doing... if I gave them a score out of 10, I'd say 8.5 out of 10. They're doing good. Not... I was going to say they're doing amazing, but they're doing good. And I really have high hopes for that. Colonies really seeming to establish... starting to see some eggs, starting to see some action. I guess people are going to take that action comment in a weird way, but you know what I'm saying. Starting to see some good stuff going on there. Chris Young, what do you think about DIY CO2, baking soda, and citric acid? It would be for a 15-gallon flex planted with a light upgrade. Doing DIY CO2 is fun. It's kind of like a fun weekend thing to goof around with, do it a couple of times. But let me be honest with you. By the fifth or sixth time that you have to do your DIY CO2, you'll be like, man, there has to be a simpler, easier, less messy way of doing your CO2. And to be honest, probably 15 years ago, I used to do DIY CO2, and as a classically trained chef, I'm adept at measuring, putting stuff into bottles, all that kind of food handling crap. I'm pretty good at it, so it'll drive you nuts. So basically, just consider spending the $100 and getting a decent kind of cheap regulator, get some tubing, a diffuser, and rent a CO2 tank. Maybe it's $150, but the real cheap setup you can get in there for about $100. Go mow some lawns, do some work for some people, some side work, whatever, anything you can kind of get going, and you can make that $100 and get those parts pretty. You can build up the parts too, or you can find some used ones on Craigslist or something like that. So yeah, it's definitely a fun thing to do, and it's a good thing to learn. Like, I think people learning the chemical reaction to creating DIY CO2 is pretty important. And if the apocalypse is real, it's how you make alcohol. So could come in helpful for somebody in the world of the apocalypse, that maybe you could make some bathtub ghetto liquor and, sell it on the black market of the apocalypse. I don't know. If the zombies are real, we're going to have a problem. Texas A&M Aquatics is not to change subjects, but I keep a few different types of Neos, and I want to do Caridina. How warm of a temp can they handle? I keep most of my fish in the garage in Texas, and it gets pretty warm into the 80s. 80s is pretty high. 80s is not going to go well for Caridina shrimp. Anything over 75 is just really starting to push it with them, especially with the low pH. You have such low pH, you're going to get less dissolved oxygen in the water, regardless of what you do, because it's a temperature relation. So you really are going to get kind of a diminished ability for your water to actually hold oxygen. That it's really going to end up kind of being a problem. You just don't want it to get too hot. So, I mean, you could run some DIY fans on the tank to help keep it cool, but then you're going to run into evaporative problems because the water evaporates because the air is hot and you got a fan blowing on it to keep it cool. Then it evaporates. Then you get lesser water volume. Then you end up in the problem with compounding any of the chemicals in the water, nitrate, nitrite, ammonia, any of that kind of stuff going on. So you're really going to compound it and have an issue with your crystal shrimp. That's really what ends up happening realistically to most people. And then they get discouraged and they don't want to do it anymore. So I'd consider a small tank in the house or something where you can actually keep the temperature relative. There we go. I gotta throw my trash. Gotta throw my trash away. Ah! Spinning around. All right. Okay. Hopefully I answered enough questions for today. It's a Monday. Hopefully I was entertaining for the day. It's a Monday. What do you want me to do? I hope everybody out there is having a fantastic pandemic and that it's going well for you, and you just continue staying safe and doing what you got to do. 61 likes today. That seems insufficient, but hey, we live in the world of reality. $20 super chat from Danikin and a $5 super chat from Sam Malone. That will help keep us afloat around here. Thank you very much. Probably get demonetized by YouTube, but hey, you take the wins where you get them, you take the losses where you get them, and you just keep rocking and rolling. Scott's Aquatics became a new member from being a member from before, so that's good too. Thank you very much. Janice Lundberg became a member, also 2 members today. That's a world record for a Monday. Most people are just so down and out on a Monday that it's just hard to become a member. You know what I'm saying? Dreaded Fishkeeper says, thanks for your time. Texas Sandy says, I used the DIY CO2 on a few tanks back in the day, but after it got wrong, a $45 regular and I split it between the tanks. Yeah, that's the reality. You're going to save money in the long run, realistically. So, all right, hopefully everybody out there has a fantastic Monday, and I will talk to you all later.